Okay, let's move on to number 5. However, is that a premise indicator? You say however, and what follows, does that mean that there's a premise coming up afterwards, a conclusion coming up, or neither? And here, let's think of a context. Here's a good one. However hard I tried, I could not find the answer. Now, sometimes you're just using this to try to explain something. So it looks like that what's following, however, is not a premise, not a conclusion, but sort of part of an explanation of what's going. Not trying to convince yourself of something, but trying to explain something. So this is neither a premise nor a conclusion indicator. Now you might come up with another example that'll throw you off. You say, I tried to make it to class, however, the buses were not running. And again, you might say, well, what comes after however, the buses weren't running, leads you to the conclusion that you tried to make it to class, but it doesn't really lead to that. It's an explanation of why you did not make it to class. Your explanation how you didn't make it to class. So this one's neither a premise nor a conclusion indicator. Well, the next one, the word and, is that a premise or a conclusion indicator? Let's think of a context. Just for some of the people in the class, they'll be happier with this example and some of my earlier ones. Rihanna is not a female vocalist, and she is hot. Maybe I should have said she's not hot for those who are going to disagree about that also. But it's telling us, now what does this say? It says both of these, this looks like it's making a claim that both of these things are true. So it looks like this one also is not a premise, and what comes after the and isn't a premise, it's not a reason. It's also not a conclusion that the first one is a reason for. So and is neither a premise nor a conclusion indicator. And we're going to find out with some words, especially like and if and only if, that they play an important role in logic, but the role isn't necessarily to give us a clue that we have in English that a conclusion is coming. Okay, now let's turn to the final one that I asked, the preliminary one that I asked you to do, thus. Okay. Let's think of an example. The government ought to protect the people, thus the government organizes an army. Now, the government organizes an army, thus the government organizes an army. So the reason the government organizes an army looks like it follows from the fact that the government ought to be protecting its people. So it looks like the fact that the government ought to protect its people is a reason for what's the conclusion, that the government organizes an army. So 7 is a thus, like therefore, is a conclusion indicator. Hope you're getting the idea. I might assign a few more depending on how much time remains when I see how much time it'll take you guys to get through all these videos. We will do a few more of these exercises just to make sure that we understand the concept, and we're actually going to use some of this in the next set of exercises that we do.